Welcome to the Language Alchemy podcast, where you transform your communication to create the life and relationships you truly want. I'm your host, Alejandra Siroka, and I help multicultural individuals, couples, and change makers move beyond surface level politeness and conflict avoidance to have authentic, value-based interactions that actually resolve issues and deepen connection. If you're tired of rehashing conversations in your head, walking on eggshells, or feeling misunderstood in your most important relationships, this podcast will give you a new way forward. I'm grateful you're here because today I am going to share something very powerful that has been a game changer for my marriage and for so many of the couples I coach. And I'm going to be talking about this within the context of going back to school. In fact, this is the second episode on back to school transitions. In the previous episode, episode 178, I talked about how to communicate with your children about going back to school. If you'd like to know how to talk to your children consciously during transitions, then listen to the previous episode, episode 178, after you finish this one. During this time of year, when we transition from summer into fall and from vacation to the school year, we often don't talk about how when kids go back to school, the rhythm of the entire family changes. And this includes the rhythm in a relationship between partners. By the end of this episode, you will know how to use conscious communication to transform what's often a stressful time into an opportunity for deeper connection and a stronger partnership with your partner, co-parent, or a close member of your community. Most couples jump into this transition without pausing to recognize what's actually happening between them. They get caught up in logistics, the school supply shopping list, after-school activities, kids, and they rarely tend to their partnership during this significant transition. When couples don't acknowledge these changes consciously, they can feel disconnected, overwhelmed, or even resentful without understanding why, especially if they don't talk about it. There's suddenly more to coordinate, more schedules to manage, and often less time for each other. But when we name what's happening and we create the space to talk about it together, we can transform a potentially chaotic transition into a meaningful passage that can bring you and your partner or co-parent together. While of course your children are going through this transition, you are too. So you need to create a family support system so that you and your partner or co-parent can learn how to support your children and each other during moments like these. So how can you have a transition conversation with your partner? That's what I'm going to share next. Before you and your partner get deep into logistics, this conversation needs to start with your values. Take time to talk about what's most important to you as a family during this transition. Maybe you value family support, shared joy, and shared responsibilities. Maybe you value attunement to each other and your kids. When you ground yourself in these values, all your practical decisions become expressions of what matters most to you. Next, you can discuss the needs you anticipate. This may include helping the kids wake up earlier in the morning, or having breakfast ready, making lunches, arranging carpools with other parents, supporting with homework, or staying attuned to your children's moods and distress signals. After you ground your conversation in your collective values, and then you move on to talk about your needs, you are now ready to create your support plan together. You can look at your calendars and you can decide who's taking whom to which school activities. You can determine who will wake the kids up in the morning and who will spend 10 minutes connecting with them before they leave for school. You can decide who's going to be responsible for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and what time it can work best for the whole family to share meals together. You can also discuss how you will support each other when one of your kids is having a tantrum or showing some difficulty processing all the feelings that can come with transition. Will you tag team? Will one parent take the lead while the other provides backup support? Having these conversations ahead of time prevents you from feeling overwhelmed and resentful when challenging moments arise. One of the couples I worked with took this to heart, and they learned to schedule a lunch meeting every year before school started to have a value-based conversation about their support system for that academic year. They told me they loved these conversations because these conversations help them to tend to their partnership and not just their parenting. When they scheduled this conversation, they called it transition lunch dates. When you approach these transitions mindfully, everybody can benefit. Not just your children, but also the relationship between you and your partner or co-parent. Throughout this transition period, and really throughout every transition, I encourage couples to check in with one another regularly. When I'm coaching couples, I teach them these 3 essential questions. Number 1, what do you have going on this week? You can choose your own words, like, how's this week for you? Or what's on your plate? This question creates space for each partner to share their reality and their feelings in a judgment-free space. When you have this conversation, you may talk about how one of you has a big presentation at work and you're also managing different school events that week. So you may share that that's feeling overwhelming as you're looking into the week. Or maybe one of you shares that you've been helping kids with homework and you're anticipating doing that again the coming week, but you're noticing that you're having a hard time understanding some pieces of homework. This first question helps you reduce assumptions, confusion, and the disconnection that can come when you don't know how much your partner is doing. The second question is a very simple one. What do you need? This is where you get specific about support. Maybe you need some time on Tuesday to prep for that work meeting after dinner. Or maybe you need 15 minutes to decompress when you get home before helping the kids with homework. Or maybe you need help brainstorming how to make mornings go smoothly. When you know what your needs are, you can communicate them with clarity rather than feeling overwhelmed by them and then expressing them in indirect or passive-aggressive ways later. Asking your partner a question about their needs is a beautiful expression of love, care, and connection. And question number 3 is, how can I support you? This third question shifts you from the mindset of we're both struggling separately to we're in this together. This question invites creativity and collaboration. Sometimes support may look like doing something for one another. Maybe your partner suggests helping you on Tuesday so that you can prep for that work meeting after dinner. Or maybe you ask your partner to take over the kids' bedtime so that you can prep for that meeting. Support could also look like bringing you tea in the morning, or taking over carpool duty, or simply listening while you process your day. Other times, support might look like refraining from doing something. Maybe the support you want to ask for is for your partner to refrain from having their phone at the dinner table. Or maybe you refrain from skipping meals because that impacts your mood and how you show up with your family. Or maybe you choose to support one another by refraining from focusing the conversation with kids around what they did in school, so that there can also be space for them to share how they feel being back in school. This third question explicitly communicates shared partnership, a shared vision, and togetherness. These three questions transformed so many relationships. And I'm not just talking about my clients, the beautiful couples and families I have the honor of coaching. These questions have also been instrumental in my own marriage. For decades now, Matthew and I set time aside every Sunday to ask each other these three questions. And we also integrated them into a quick check-in before we go to bed, when we quickly ask each other how we can support the other the following day. Regular check-ins are very powerful in a partnership, especially in partnerships with kids. There's one last communication tool I want to teach you to strengthen your partnership, especially during transitions. And to be transparent, this is what Matthew and I do on a daily basis. We take a moment to thank each other daily. And you may think, Alejandra, what, daily? Yes. It just takes a few seconds. We do it every time we eat together. And because we have integrated into our weekly rhythm these three questions I just taught you, what's going on for you this week? What do you need? And how can I support you? It's very easy to find something to acknowledge each other, devoting moments to connection and expressing support, care, and gratitude explicitly. Keep your relationship meaningful and gives our mind the message that our relationship is thriving. We know through research that when we direct our attention to what is working, when we are noticing what we're grateful for, our own health and well-being benefit. We experience less stress, especially during these transitions. The more accompanied, seen, and heard we feel, the more ability we have to go through challenging experiences with a sense of confidence, capacity, and equanimity. As you've been listening to this episode, perhaps you're asking me, and what about for single parents, Alejandra? If you are a single parent listening to this, I want you to know that these practices can work for you too. If you have a co-parent or another caregiver for your children, you can use the same conversation frameworks with them, even if you don't live together or if you're not in a romantic relationship. And if you don't have a co-parent, consider reaching out to another single parent in your community. You can ask each other the same three questions and talk together about how to prepare yourselves and your kids for the back-to-school transition. There's so much wisdom and support that comes from connecting with other parents who understand your experience. What's key here is that you show yourself that you are not alone, because most likely there is someone who would really enjoy supporting you and feeling heard by you. As we finish this episode, I want to acknowledge something important. You have the capacity to navigate this transition with grace and connection with your partner, co-parent, or caregiver. And you might not feel like it some days, especially on those chaotic mornings when everyone is running late and someone can't find their backpack. Conscious communication doesn't mean you'll have to have perfect conversations or that every transition will go smoothly. It means you are choosing to engage with intention rather than with reaction. It means you are building connection even in the midst of change. When you approach the transition with conscious communication in your partnership, you transform it from something that just happens to your family into something that becomes meaningful for your family. You are turning a potentially stressful time into an opportunity for deeper understanding, a stronger partnership, and more authentic relationships. Every conversation you have, whether it's checking in with your partner about their needs for the week or expressing gratitude for how they're supporting the family, is an act of evolutionary activism, because you're modeling to your children how to navigate transitions in a meaningful and connecting way. And now let's recap what you've heard in this episode. Today, on this second episode of how to communicate consciously during back-to-school transition, I focused on the communication with your partner, because going back to school with all the structure and activities of the academic year impacts the rhythm and flow for the whole family, including your partnership. This is why I talked about creating a support system with your partner or co-parent, and I also taught you 3 essential questions that has supported so many couples. Finally, I emphasized the importance of regular check-ins and gratitude practices. I am wishing you, your partnership, and your family a skillful transition during this time. Thank you so much for listening. Until next episode, and as we say in Argentina, ciao ciao. Original music by Gary Lapo. You can find all links in the show notes at languagealchemy.com.